Welcome. Today, Asma and I will be sharing the Turing Way's experience with localization. We'll tell you about how this community, the Turing Way, has been contributing to globalize open source content and how we've been documenting. Hope you enjoyed our talk. Well, to start, I'm Melissa. I'm based in Brazil. I am currently the Infrastructure and Impact Measurement Coordinator at a project called Metadocência. And like Asma, who's with me in this presentation, I was also an outreach intern with the Ontology project. And I'm very enthusiastic also about open science and localization. If you want to chat further more about this, you can find me on Twitter. Well, as I will detail in a moment, the Turing Way guides we'll be explaining are mostly written in English. So the contributors highlighted here are part of the Turing Way community, and they have been working for the past few months on translating its content into other languages, such as Arabic, Turkish, Spanish, and Portuguese. So collaboration, as you're going to see, is essential for a project like this to flourish. So I would like to leave huge thanks to them at this part of the talk. Thank you so much. So I'll start by sharing some information about the Turing Way project, and then later on, Asma will tell us how part of the community works to translate and document the project's content. So the Turing Way is an open source and community-led project that aims to open up the potential of data science for everyone. Through the collaborative development of the Turing Way project, we bring together a diverse community of researchers, educators, leaders, and members in different roles within data science and research at the Alan Turing Institute across the United Kingdom and internationally too. So this project and this community, they seek to provide all the information that researchers might need throughout the life cycle of their projects to ensure that their research is reproducible, ethical, open, and collaborative for everyone. You will see these lovely illustrations too by the Scriberia team that also that always joins Turing Way book dashes, which are meetings to be editing the book, which I'll be detailing in a moment. Well, it's also worth mentioning that the Turing Way is a part of the Alan Turing Institute, which is the National Institute for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence in the UK. Well, the project started actually with contributors who documented best practices, guidance, and recommendations in chapters, describing various concepts and tools that can ensure the reproducibility aspects of data research. However, these data practices were not enough, as research also includes the way we communicate with our work with others, how we design our project, how efficiently we collaborate with each other, right? So all these while ensuring the highest ethical standards and research integrity in our research, in our projects. We understand that data science practices will continue to evolve and change over time. So location and so this change over time, location and new knowledge that our community members produce will also be a part of that. And therefore, the project is and will always be a work in progress, which you are welcome to join as well. In order to accommodate all these requirements in research and data science, we have collectively written a web-based handbook and are still writing it, as I said, with 5 guides that are illustrated here. So the guide on reproducible research, on project design, communication, collaboration, and ethical research. And then there's the community handbook too. The community handbook is a place where we also document our processes and workflows. It's a section of it to make sure that anyone can replicate and extend our work beyond the project, and in any other community can be replicated by individuals as well. So we have seen the Turing Way project and its community grow in the last 2 years or 2.5 years since it's been founded. So as of July 2021, the Turing Way hosted over 107 sub-chapters of its guidebook across the 5 guides mentioned in the community handbook. In order to ensure that our community members are able to participate irrespective of their previous experience of working in the open source or with the data science community, we provide the resources, guidance, templates, training, and pathways that they can use to stay involved in this community, to feel welcome and to share what they bring from their experience. We have over 275 direct contributors on GitHub, where we develop our resources, where they're mostly hosted, and thousands of users. For example, our illustrations, which are being intensively used in this talk, have been downloaded over 5,000 times. That's available on Zenodo as well. We maintain also social media presence and communicate about the project so that it can reach as many people as possible, and so we can bring more voices in. For a community that started at a grassroots level, we are very grateful to have these members working with us. So the Turing Way, in the Turing Way, we define pathways for collaboration that require always multiple people to support each other. So for example, people are invited to develop and to share resources through mentored contributions. In this talk, however, we're focused on the efforts to make the project global, as highlighted here, while still applying open science practices, right? So we also create opportunities for people to maintain and improve resources, which could be as simple as fixing a broken link or a bug, or creating new resources of their interest. New ideas are shared very frequently in the community, and then new chapters and sub-chapters are born. So contributors are also those who share these resources, review and update the existing chapters, and of course, translate them in languages that ensure accessibility for a wider community. So finally, we encourage everyone to share their best practices by highlighting their work. So it's important to make visible who is doing this and really give thanks to that. This is all documented in the handbook and in the other Turing Way online spaces, such as social media, fostering inclusion and preserving the memory of the project. Well, I'll now hand it over to Asma, who will be talking about the translation and localization process at the Turing Way and how we've been documenting it.
Hello everyone, and thank you Melissa for this wonderful introduction. So my name is Asma Kacem. I'm from Tunisia. It's a small country at the north of Africa, and I'm a telecommunication engineering student at the National School of Engineers in Sousse. Also, I'm a nutrition intern at the Open Science Community Saudi Arabia project and a Turing Way member. You can find below my website and feel free to contact with me via LinkedIn, Twitter, or mail. So let's start. So I will be speaking about our translation journey and the documentation process. So as Melissa mentioned before, the Turing Way content is written in English, overcoming the language barrier for many people around the world who do not speak English. For example, for me, it will be so helpful if I find some resources related to my study in my native language, Arabic. So this language barrier motivated us to create a community-led, a multilingual versions of the Turing Way that have the same collaborative spirit. But before we speak about the process, I would like to highlight the difference between localization and translation. So while translation is just to translate a text to another language, localization takes a step further by employing multiple techniques to adapt content's full meaning for the new culture to achieve what we call internationalization. And there are many systems which help automate the localization process, and this is called translation management system. So what is translation management system? So we can define it that it manages the localization process from the beginning of the translation until the finished product. So like you see here on the right in this picture, it has the integration with GitHub, which is very important in open source project. Also, it integrates it with multiple engines that enables machine translation like Google Translate. Another advantage that another advantage that it has the glossary, where it keeps records of all the terminology and their definition for the consistency throughout the project. So translation management system also leverage translation memory, which can be utilized throughout multiple projects. So let's move to the crowding in the Turing way. We established a workflow in crowding for the translation. It's a type of translation management system. So here, like you see, we use crowding because it integrated with GitHub. It supports right to left languages like Arabic, and of course it supports for open source without any charges. So all our workflow is illustrated on the left, like you see in this picture. It lives on a GitHub organization account specifically for translation and its documentations. Any new strings translated in crowding will generate automatically a pull request in GitHub with the new translation. So our translation relies on crowdsourcing and volunteers. So it's important to keep consistency in the translation. Therefore, any translation-specific rules are all documented in GitHub organization account using the language itself. So, for example, Arabic rules are written in Arabic to make it more accessible and useful for more audience outside the Turing way. So our translation memory is exportable and shareable to other open source projects. So feel free to contact the co-leads for any question or regarding reusing our translation memory or glossary. So let's move to the translation in the Turing way. So our current workflow started in the book dash in 2021, which reorganized translation workflow and the communication between the original repository, the translation platform, and the book deploy. So the localization is co-led by 4 members, who is Alejandro, Andrea, Betul, and Camila, who oversee the infrastructure and keep the documentation updated. So also there is language co-leads who leads the translation for specific language. And there are also other rules, includes translators and proofreaders. So anyone can join regardless of their knowledge in open science, and no knowledge in GitHub is needed. Because we have designed the whole process to be accessible and easy for individuals with no coding experience, and make elaborate documentation on the process, which make move to the documentation process. So let's move to the last part, which is documentation of translation. So documentation first approach. So in the Turing way, inside and outside the translation process, documentation is extremely important. So social norms drive behavior and affect community culture, and to avoid the detrimental impact of unwritten rules, we need to transparently communicate them with the community. That's why I think one of the biggest barrier and obstacle for a new person can experience when entering a project is not knowing what the rules and expectations are, where they can participate and how they can collaborate. So all these can be very discouraging for someone who is new to the project. That's why documenting is very important. So for open source project, we need to ensure that there are no unlabeled doors. So interested collaborators will easily identify where they can start. For example, README files, online repository with labeled issues and pull requests, of course. So try to provide contribution guideline and describe how people can participate. What tools, practices are recommended and how contributors will have access to them. What skills will be required and what kind of support do they have to build those skills. And of course, what kind of rules and rewards are in place and how they inform the policy. For example, the code of conduct. And maintaining transparent reporting and providing feedback pathway so that these processes can be improved. So let's move to the documentation of translation. So in the book itself, we have a guide called Community Handbook. So the Community Handbook, like you see here on the right in this picture, provide information about all our practices within the project, ways of working, and other aspects that can make community participation equitable for all members, such as how we plan our event, how we enforce our code of conduct, even how we make our newsletter. As you may have already guessed, our translation workflow is also documented inside the Community Handbook. In the documentation, we don't only document the technical aspects for newcomers, but also include non-technical aspects about how we lead our co-working goals, how we set periodical reviews so other open source projects can reuse the same approach in their community. As we mentioned before previously, we also have the language-specific documentation in GitHub written in the language itself. We set the language-specific guideline to use inclusive language, which can be reused and adapt to other projects. Example on the right here in this picture, for Arabic documentation I contributed largely to. So sharing and documenting our translation journey has proven to be important in reaching out to new members and making their contribution smoother and more accessible. So everyone is welcome to join us, and there is many ways to contribute to the translation apart of translating in crowded. You can review previous translation or by reading the book and letting us know you are contributing to the translation, or by promoting the project to your community. So feel free to get in touch with us anytime. And of course, we have multiple community events and calls weekly, and you are invited to join us. So we host translation co-working session every Tuesday where onboard new members and we work on the translation together. And the Turing Way hosts 2 book dash events each year. Also, our community manager hosts collaboration cafes every month and co-working call each week. And for me, personally, I joined the project through internship in the Open Science Community Saudi Arabia as part of Outreachy. So if you have any question related to Outreachy, how I join, or any question, so feel free to ask me. And finally, none of this work would be possible without our community of collaborators. We would like to invite you to become a contributor to the Turing Way to help us develop chapters of data, transparent reporting, communication, and other topics that can help others to stay updated with current practices. We welcome all kinds of contributions. Case studies and live experiences are welcome too. You don't need to have a coding experience to contribute. You just need an idea and a willingness to learn. And thank you for joining today and for listening. With thanks also Christy, Malvika, and the Turing Way community, friends, and collaborators. And you can find below many useful links. So thank you and goodbye.
I'm going to go ahead and get started because we have some questions for the two of you who are here. So I'll just get started and people can jump in as they arrive. Really great talk. I think you saw hopefully you saw all the enthusiastic reception in the chat. It was really interesting. I had a question, and I was actually thinking about Abby's lightning talk yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, but she was talking about documentation being an afterthought sometimes, and then there being panic. And I was wondering if the same thing might happen with translation, and if this kind of approach could like prevent that from happening as far as like translation being an afterthought in a panic moment.
So I'm going to speak first, and then Asma, if you got anything to add, please feel free to jump in. So with the translation, the Turing Way in particular, they started to, they try to document every process, even like how they write the newsletters. They do identify documentation as a crucial part in the process itself, so others can reuse all these workflow. And when we started the translation, we started documentation from the very beginning, and we had individuals from different nationalities who trying different languages. So we did know from the beginning that just like doing simple documentation for the workflow is not going to work. We do need to have language-specific rules for each language. We need to have some sort of governance plan, how each rules might change. So this is work that started from the very beginning. Until now, it seems to be going well. We're trying to, there's any need for changing any kind of the rules, any changing any kind of the workflow. We have some sort of decision-making system that we try to apply. We try also to learn a lot from other communities who's doing some sort of translations to their open source project. Yeah, so that's from my side. I wasn't in the talk actually for app, so I don't know if that related, if that's answered your questions, Emily.
Yeah, it did. I don't know if you have anything to add, Asma.
Yeah.
Did you want to say anything, Asma, or shall I go on to the next question?
Okay. Next question.
Okay. Somebody asked, excuse me, did you have to consider any special style or format guidelines in the original language so it was easier to translate?
Asma, do you want to answer that?
Okay. So we have a language-specific rules for each language. So I think that's it.
Do you have any examples
language...
you could share, like that? That would be interesting.
Yeah, we have all that in the GitHub organization account. I had that link somewhere. I will just post it here. And we try to write these rules in the language itself. So it's not written in English. Like the Arabic rules written by Asma for the Arabic. So it can be, yeah, I've just added it now. Yeah, and the Portuguese is written in Portuguese, Spanish is written in Spanish, so they can identify these and they can, add a request to change any of these rules and they can, apply it easily. We're trying to make that process easier. So if anyone got any better way also of doing that, please feel free to share. And Mustafa is with us. Yeah.
That's great. Hi, Mustafa. Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, and thank you for your talk. I'll go on to a question. Thanks. I'll go on to a question for you. Oh, Betty's here as well. Let me let Benny in.
Oh.
Hello. Welcome.
Hello.
I have a question for Benny and Mustafa, which you may or may not know the answer to, but if you have any insight on it, would be great. How big is the African tech writer community, and how do people typically get into technical writing in Africa? I'm thinking that maybe the startups help train new technical writers. Do you have anything to share about that?
For I guess how big the technical writing community is, we can't really. There's not really statistics or data on that, so we can't really tell. And we don't know about Africa, but I guess for Nigeria, I guess like we have a upcoming technical writing community, like especially over the past few years, we've seen a lot of people that are interested in getting technical writing. Then for how did they get to technical writing? So um I don't know, I can't speak for others, but I know most of the people that I know that are into technical writing, like myself, they started self-learn it. So we're either we're taking courses online, like the Google Developer Technical Writing course, or we're taking sometimes I think last year Ashnote did the technical writing bootcamp. So they join those boot camp or they take the Google technical writing course and other stuff they learn it's right on the job. So they are learning how to write stuff on the job. And again, some of these companies or some of like Ashton does this regular competition where you are forced to build something and write about how you built it. So people like have to jump on it, you notice that you made a mistake in this article, you get feedback and you iterate it into your, but most of the time it's self-learned. So I guess that's one of the challenges. There's no like that bridge of companies here like teaching you like how to build.
Right. Mustafa, did you want to add anything to that?
Just to add to that,
Oh. Go ahead.
yeah, I want to add to that.
Oh, okay. So okay, when it comes to that area, I guess I don't really have so much experience to talk in that area of like SDKs and stuff. Most of them are in better position to talk about that in that aspect. But I can only talk more about the community he was talking about.
Yeah, please.
So for the community, during the lockdown, Mustafa, I think he started the Write the Docs Nigeria. It's like a branch of Write the Docs. But so we have this Google Meet where maybe you learn something like, for example, like what's technical writing, how to write a blog, and you come and teach others like what you have learned. People like share knowledge and all of that. Then beside that, myself and some friends also started this Twitter space we should do every 3 weeks because of time. So let's talk technical writing, that's what it's called. So we get a speaker, either a speaker we found on the Docs Slack channel or from LinkedIn. And the speaker comes to teach us something they know about technical writing. Yeah. So that's mostly how people learn like the whole technical writing stuff. So there are bootcamps, the Google course and community.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
let me get the links to the community.
Awesome. Going back to Batul and Asma for a minute about your project, it seemed like, as with any good open source project, there's lots of different levels where you can get involved. You can make a little contribution or you can make a big contribution. Would you say that's correct? And can you say a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with the Turing Way, with the Open Life Science community, we try to onboard people with these little tasks rather than jump in with a big VR, like just fixing typo or even fixing a link they found in the book. That's how most people get involved within the Turing Way. Also, they get involved through a collaboration cafe, book dash event. We have a book dash event. I'm going to find the link right now in November where you can participate. Also help with this illustration that you found inside. So we bring in an artist who try to simplify a very, very complex concept within the open science or open source, and then they draw it, and then it get added to the book and get added to the Zenodo with the DOI by the Turing Way. So this is something the Turing Way they do it, and Asma got involved through Outreachy. So that's another way of getting involved as well. So the open science community Saudi Arabia, we're going to have 2 interns in December for Outreachy. So if you're interested, just let us know, contact us. So there's a different ways, and you can find all of these actually inside the book itself and also inside the GitHub repository. And if you've got any questions, just contact us.
Yeah, and what's an example of like a larger scale way that people get involved?
you can write a chapter. You can help. Yeah, a lot of people, that's what we do in the book dash. So the chapter is not really a big thing. If you go to the Turing Way and try to read a chapter, is just it's very short, so people don't get bored. That's deliberate, and we try to make it in a language without all the jargons. You say very, very simplified. Even people who's not technical can write it, can read it, can understand it. Also, there's infrastructure work in the Turing Way itself, like with the continuous integration, with the deployment itself. You can also give talks like Asma right now. This is like the first talk that Asma is given about the Turing Way and about the community. So there's different way where you can get involved, inside the Turing Way.
Yeah. Keeping things short so people don't get bored. That's a great advice for most things, probably. So, hi, Mustafa, you're back. I don't know if your audio or your mic is working again.
Yeah, hello, I'm here.
Hello. I'm just going to ask this question one more time that came in the chat was, how do you decide the scope of the API and SDK documentation versus the other guides you mentioned? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes. So from my experience and from the research we conducted, so first thing what you want to do is decide on what is priority for the company at that time based on the merchants that are going to be consuming the kind of the content and attention of the technical writer. So in the past 6 months, that API documentation and then the API specification for those merchants and then the SDK that they are using with what we are having, and then they can build and self-attend to themselves.
Oh, no. Oh, dear. Well, you might be able to answer some of the questions in chat. I've put it there. So yeah, I think Hopin is getting a little bit sleepy. So so I might say we should leave it there. Thank you so much, all of you, for your amazing talks. They were both really, really interesting. Thank you for making yourselves available for questions. We are into our lunch break now. We have an hour, and then at 1:55 Central European time, we will have a few lightning talks again, and they should be great. So hope to see you all there, and thank you for coming.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.